And we are going to go ahead and get started this afternoon. Welcome. My name is Elizabeth Aloni, and I'm with Schneps Media. Schneps Media is the largest local media company in the New York metro area. We publish over 70 newspapers, magazines, websites, webinars, podcasts, and events throughout Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Westchester, Long Island, and Philadelphia. Today, we're thrilled to present the webinar, Seniors on Campus, the Scoop on University-Based Retirement Living. Now, there are a lot of decisions to be made around retirement living, and today we have experts in the field who can help families make educated decisions when evaluating senior living options. I'm happy to introduce them to you for today's conversation. First, I want to welcome Ashley Wade. Ashley is the marketing director at Broadview Senior Living at Purchase College. Ashley has worked in senior living for more than 17 years with communities throughout the Midwest. Most recently, she serves as the executive director of Sycamore Creek Senior Living, Spectrum Retirement Communities in Pickerington, Ohio. She was previously associated with Friendship Village, Columbus, Kendall at Granville, and Hillhaven Retirement, where she held regional and community marketing director positions. Ashley holds a Bachelor of Arts, Political Science from Miami University, Oxford, Ohio. Ashley is an official trained provider through the Sage Care program, a cultural competency training program organized by Sage. Welcome, Ashley. Next, I'm very happy to introduce you to Brad Breeding. Brad is the president and founder of mylifesite.net, a company providing online information and tools to help families make educated decisions when evaluating life plan retirement communities and other senior living options. Prior to starting My Life Site, Brad spent 13 years as a financial advisor. Brad's extensive knowledge of the senior living industry, combined with his financial planning background, allows him to provide valuable insights on the intersections between lifestyle, healthcare, housing, and finances. Brad is interviewed frequently by national media outlets such as Kiplinger's Magazine, Money Magazine, and the New York Times. And now he's here with Schneps Media. He's also the author of What's the Deal with Retirement Communities and speaks regularly for retirement living providers, industry trade organizations, and other groups across the country. Welcome to both of you. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. So Brad, can you get started by telling us a bit about what your company does to support seniors and their families?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So as you mentioned, Elizabeth, I spent a number of years as a financial advisor before starting My Life Site. And it was really there that I saw a need among older adults and their families for really just better information, better guidance, better tools to kind of navigate, what I call complex senior living decisions. And that's really where it kind of started, with just me locally really diving in and gathering a lot of really good information. And fast forward about 10 years, and now My Life Site is really an online resource. So we're really just continuing to build and develop this, where you can get community-specific reports for some communities. You can get some really good articles and videos and education, really just trying to equip the consumer to, make a better informed decision.
Fantastic. It's so important for seniors and their loved ones to have access to that kind of information. So with your significant expertise, can you share with us the unique benefits of senior living on a university campus?
Yes, I'd be happy to. And so, in fact, I've got a couple of things here. I'm going to skip forward some things, but I'm sorry. So let's start here. Let's start with wellness. So if you think about what a retirement plan really is, and we're talking about retirement living here, retirement communities and senior living, or all that goes along with that. And if you really think about what a retirement plan includes, the first thing people think about is finances. And that's, obviously that's a really important piece of any retirement plan, is money, finances, asset allocation, your income strategy, tax planning, and so forth. And these are the kind of things which, of course, continue throughout retirement, not just before planning for retirement. But when we think about retirement planning, and I'm going to get to your question, don't worry. When we think about retirement planning, we have to think, in my opinion, beyond just the financial piece. And this is something that occurred to me some time back. And you really think about it, I mean, some of the top concerns that seniors or retirees have are things like serious health problems, or not being a burden on my children, or finding purpose, or not losing that sense of purpose, social isolation. All of these things are extremely important, and all these things need to be planned for. And so a part of that, many of those things fall under that wellness category. And when you think about what wellness really is, you certainly have the physical component, right? The diet, exercise, all that goes into that. But equally as important, in my opinion, is the social piece. Again, one of the big concerns is not having a purpose or social isolation and these kind of things. And there can be a spiraling kind of a downward effect on our health with some of that. So the social piece is incredibly important. The emotional piece, the spiritual, vocational. This is continuing to be able to use our knowledge, our background, our skills, our experience in some meaningful way every day. And then certainly the intellectual, continuing to grow our minds, continue to learn, challenge our minds, no matter what stage of life. So when you think about what are some of the benefits of university-based retirement living, well, this is certainly one of those things that I think is really important, because it probably touches on each of these aspects in some way. It kind of checks all these boxes, whether we're talking certainly intellectual, the vocational piece, opportunities to teach, in some cases, opportunities to learn, and all these kind of things, lifelong learning programs, and so forth. Certainly the social piece, the physical, and all of this. And what people don't realize a lot of times is where you live plays a really important role in all of these categories. Where you live, our housing, if you will, is a very important part of our overall retirement plan when we think more broadly about what a retirement plan really includes. So, as we think about that and carry it a few steps further, one of the questions, of course, is why does it make sense today? Why does university-based retirement community make sense today? And let me first start by saying that I am not here, I always say this in all my presentations, that I am not here to endorse or recommend any communities. And I also always recognize the fact that all of you, everybody's in a different situation. Ultimately you have to make the decisions that are in the best interest of your situation, your life, your preferences and needs. Having said that, university-based retirement communities, or URBCs as they're sometimes, or UBRCs, sorry, I have that backwards on there. But one of the reasons I think today and going forward, we're going to see more of that. There's a few things. First, when you think about it, when we think about retirees or our senior population today, there's really two generations mainly that make that up. You have the silent generation, as it's often called. And with that generation, we had a huge influx back in the 40s, right, of college students coming home from the war and the GI Bill, and what many of you obviously on this call are very familiar with that. So this influx of new college students during that period of time. And then, of course, with the boomer generation, that next generation, the most highly educated generation, at least up to that point, by their mid-20s, they were the most highly educated generation. And so, you have these two generations where that college experience and education was really an important part of their life, probably in a bigger way than many people even stop to realize. And of course, the boomer generations, I read somewhere recently, the Baskin-Robbins generation, meaning they want not just one flavor, but all 31, they want choice, right? Options and different things and different activities. And so, the Baskin-Robbins idea that not just vanilla, we need lots of choice. I think Baskin-Robbins eventually was at like 52 flavors or something, but whatever it was. And then, this recognition that education today is less age-based than ever before. I mean, you think about all the different sort of work study programs, the extension, education, lifelong learning, online learning. I think about my own dad who went back to get his MBA after he had retired, which is a wonderful experience for him. So all of these things come together I think to make it a really great time for this as an option in senior living. As I said, maybe not the right option for everybody, but certainly one more flavor, if you will, for people to choose from where it's the right fit. Now, another reason for this is that, both those generations that I just talked about a moment ago express really strong interest in things like active lifestyle. They want intellectually stimulating environments, lifelong learning, some of those things I mentioned before. And I'm guessing many of you on this call or on this webinar right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And maybe not all of you. As I said, different things are important to different people, but many people in retirement really say these are the things that are important. Intergenerational programs, to some extent, opportunities to utilize. This goes back to that vocational wellness. As many of you know, sometimes when people transition into retirement, and these days that's a little more of a moving target than it used to be when somebody would retire at age 65 and maybe they get the gold watch and a pension or what have you. Obviously, it's a lot different today. Retirement is kind of thought of differently than it once was. But nonetheless, when that transition takes place, something that you've done for decades, there's that sense of kind of loss, maybe of identity or something that we've so closely identified with. So finding ways to continue to add, back to the broader community with our experience and knowledge is really important to a lot of people. And then, as I said, that either renewing or rediscovering perhaps life purpose. So these are the things combined with that previous slide that I think, these kind of play into why we're going to continue to see university-based retirement communities become popular. Now, Elizabeth, specifically, how do you like that? How about that 10-minute lead up to actually answer your question? But, when you think about
a lot of great food for thought, for sure.
Yeah. So when you think about a lot of the different, the opportunities, as you mentioned, and the benefits, certainly you would think about things like the sporting events, right? Theater, music, all the things that go on campus. And then, of course, the learning piece, that intellectual wellness aspect, the classes, the lectures, teaching. And some of the classes I've seen or read about where maybe they're offered even for free or at a really low cost. So these are classes created specifically for retirees or senior adults. And I've even seen where sometimes there's opportunities for those retirees to teach classes. I've seen some really great things on that, where either sometimes maybe as a guest lecturer or something of that nature, but some really neat stories I've seen there. A lot of times you'll have access, of course, to university affiliated medical care, which can be really good. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. By the way, if you haven't noticed that I'm in the southern part of our country. So I'm in Raleigh. We have Duke and UNC and those kind of things. So a really strong university medical system down here. So sometimes you'll find that, and that can be appealing. I've already talked a little bit about the intergenerational component that's very important to some people. And this, work study options. I've seen retirement communities that are based on or based within a university where, having that student involvement with staff. And I'm sure that Ashley can probably speak more to all of these things that I'm talking about. But, where you have students that are actually working at the retirement community or volunteering. So it's really a two-way road where the residents can volunteer and do different things on campus, and those students likewise can do things within that retirement community. And so those volunteer opportunities go both ways. And then another one that maybe sometimes gets overlooked is the walkability. That's another thing that people really want these days, is walkable environments. And so naturally, universities are built to be walkable. So when you have a retirement community that's built within that university, then you have that walkability component there that kind of spills over. So you don't have the need to drive as much. And that's important to a lot of people. So those are just a few of the benefits, potential opportunities. And then one other thing that I'll get into, and Elizabeth, I'll stop because you may have another question for me, but I want to be sure to touch a little bit on the potential health benefits. In other words, can their health actually be improved by living in a university base? I'll point to kind of some studies that were done around this topic.
Right.
So, so with that, then, there were a couple of interesting studies. There was one study that was done back in 1981, and it was a smaller study. It was only 8 men that participated in this study. And some of you, particularly if you, have a background in psychology, you're probably well aware of this, but it was called the counterclockwise study. And so in that study, what happened was they put participants in this for a week. It was 1 week where they really kind of, I hate to use the word isolated because nobody wants to be isolated, but that's, they put them in this environment, a community environment where really there was no access to the outside world. They certainly had social interactions among the people in that study. And the interesting thing was, this was 1981, but they didn't put anything in there beyond the year 1959. Books, everything, the way it was decorated, every single thing in that environment for a week was from a period of time from that group of people from their 20s. And what this study showed, though it was a smaller group, and there's been some other studies similar that have been done like this, but it did show that in almost every aspect of their health, they had improved after that period of time. So there was some potential linkage there to, going back to a previous period of time and what that kind of did overall to their mental, emotional, even physical health. And then another study, or maybe not even necessarily a study, but there's a concept called the reminiscence bump. And it means that a lot of times when we remember events from our late adolescence, early adulthood, in our 20s, we tend to remember that period of time more than any other period of time in our life. And for so many of us, that's when we were in college, right? And so there can be some really good benefits, again, mentally, emotionally, to reconnecting ourselves to that period of time, because it's been shown that that can kind of give us a bump in our overall attitude and our outlook and our health. And
it makes a lot of sense. If you think about when you hear someone telling stories about their college years, their adolescence, and you could see the twinkle in their eye. I mean, you could literally see them almost look younger because of those memories. So it makes complete sense.
Yeah, there's no question about it. In fact, another interesting thing that I don't even have on the slide here is that a lot of memory care facilities, communities, neighborhoods, whatever we want to call it, but they have even started decorating their different rooms or different wings or hallways and so forth to, a previous period of time for this same exact reason. It has shown that people with memory, dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever it may be, that it really kind of brings them to life, and so there's definitely something to this. And so why am I bringing all this up? Well, the point is, for many people living, in that retirement community, or that community that is located within a university or near a university, it can do some of what we're talking about here. That goes back to that intergenerational piece, being that on campus and the sort of the spirit that tends to kind of stir up within us. I think for many people there's something to that, and it can, although there's no definitive studies showing because they haven't been around long enough, it wouldn't surprise me if for many people that does in fact have a positive impact on their health.
I absolutely understand. I love these studies because it's something intuitively, as you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. And in fact, when you were sharing some of the benefits, there are so many I wasn't even thinking about, the truth about, the walkability and, all the engagement. I mean, I think that that's something that's really interesting. Very interesting that you shared that some people with dementia, that they actually decorate in a different time period. I mean, it really just goes to show how our memories are so linked to our health and well-being. And to be able to access that is really something special.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I've had the opportunity and the pleasure, I would say, to visit. I've probably visited in person, I'll bet, nearly 150 retirement communities, and
Wow.
and I always get to talk with the residents. And of course, all of these communities are not university based, but I know from the conversations that I have with them how important these kind of things are. You see the different kinds of uh, groups that they've created within that community, clubs, whatever you want, and whatever you want to call it. And a lot of those are kind of based on history, or, studying these previous time periods and all those things. So there's kind of a yearning, I guess, is my point, where I can see some of that in people that I talk to at different retirement communities across the country.
It's an interesting combination of both looking back and getting that great feeling from looking back, and also being incorporated into an environment where you can create a now that's exciting too. And that's
Yeah.
fulfilling too, with being able to ongoing learning and this interaction with, college kids. So it's really kind of a combination of the power of the past and the power of the now.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's a really good way to look at it. Now, here's another thing you mentioned that I think is worth the audience really thinking about. Something else I've heard from people, they'll say, I like the idea of the intergenerational stuff, just not too much. I mean, after all, retirement community, one of their things is kind of being of people of like mind and, same generation. And some people don't want to have, I think the perception for some people is noisy college kids being around and all, right? So I think that's one of the things to really, my experience, and I have not had the pleasure of visiting Broadview yet, but I know in some of the others that I have visited different parts of the country, you're not really necessarily right on top of the students. There's a buffer of space there between the two. But again, I know Ashley and the staff at Broadview can talk more about that. But that is something to consider. How much, to what degree do you want those kind of intergenerational programs, and how much of that is offered or not offered with the retirement community that's based on that university?
That's a really good point, Brad. Really good point. Brad, what else? I love all the information that you have. It's really fantastic. What else can you share with us that would be a jewel?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it'll be a jewel or not, but I would tell you some of the things, we get a lot of questions about, what kind of things to think about, what kind of things to ask, what we should look for. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that. And on our website, we have a lot of information on those kind of things. But this is one of these are kind of four of the main areas that I would suggest people really think about. Really, most of these, at least three of these, would apply to really any type of retirement community. But then I've added this first one. So we'll start here. I think the relationship between the school and the university is very important, because these university-based retirement communities, as they're called, I guess there could be some, I'm not sure there's a standard definition of what that means, so I think some retirement communities I've seen have, just because they kind of have a partnership in some form with the university, others are actually located on the campus or very close to the campus. So, those kind of things are important to consider. What does that university-based retirement community, what does that really actually look like? What's really involved? And then also, what's the relationship? Because you think about the way a university is built, it's built for 20 somethings, right? So a community that's built for people that are over 55 or over 62 or whatever, there's going to be some differences there. And so, how well those two things can come together, I think, is really, really important, and how well the university supports the community and vice versa. That's something that I would really look into. And that kind of is a segue into the second one, which again could apply to really any type of retirement community, which is the management team of that retirement community, their financial management and otherwise. I mean, this is very important. You're making a move to that community. It's a commitment. You want to be there for the long run. One of the big benefits of a community like Broadview is knowing that even if something changes, right? Even if your health changes, whether that's gradually or suddenly, you have some of these different or levels of care available to you. But so you want to make sure that community is going to be around for you for the long run, and they're going to be able to provide those things that they've committed to you and all of that. So the financial management is very, very important. And then the type and quality of care, what type of care is available and the quality of that care. After all, if you ever need it, you want to make sure it's good, high quality care. And, there again, as you're looking at different retirement communities, whether they're university based or not, understanding, what's available, what types of services are there, particularly if your health changes is important. And then understanding the quality of that care. And then finally, maybe most importantly, is the community and the culture. Because when I have had the chance to go to these different retirement communities all over the country, and I ask residents, what do you like most about living here? One of the most popular answers I get is the people. And what I've really come to realize over the years is that a retirement community is not just a place to move into, right? I mean, it's really what makes the community is the people. And so that the culture and making sure it's where you're going to live and wake up every day. And that's a really important thing. So to the extent that you can get a feel for that, before you move in is really important. And I know, again, that Ashley could share many ways that you could probably do that. But that's a big thing to me because you want to make sure it's a good fit. And here's another reason that's important. And I actually, one time I was doing a talk and one of the residents living in that community came up to me and he said, here's something you need to tell people. And I promised him that I would. So what he said was, one of the things that he and his wife liked most about living there was not only the friendships that they had developed that are beneficial to them now, but the fact that he knows that if something changes later and he or his wife should need care, down the road, whether it's memory care or assisted living or something along those lines, that he would have those friends right there with him in that community to kind of walk that journey with him, and kind of a built-in support network right there. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's also something when you think about, sometimes people ask, when's the best time to move in? And that's going to be different for everybody because we all age at a different rate. But I would definitely do it soon enough that you can build those relationships and those friendships and enjoy what that has to offer. And that can be a different age for all of you, but give yourself that time to enjoy that. And then when we think about a university-based retirement community, then I think that's even more of a reason to think about that, right? Because that just opens up more opportunities of things that you can do today, while you're independent and healthy or active or whatever word we want to use, and you can actually take advantage of those things.
That's great. Really a great point. And I think that segues very nicely into, and I know people are saying, is this possible in the Northeast? Is there anything on the Northeast? But I think it segues very nicely into, having Ashley come and join us now and share a little bit about Broadview, and have an opportunity for people to see, what you're talking about, what is available and what it looks like. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, hello. I'm just going to verify that you can see my screen. Yes?
Great.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thanks so much, Brad, for the wonderful insights into university-based retirement communities, and certainly your expertise that goes far beyond UBRCs, but just in retirement living in general. As Elizabeth mentioned earlier, I do work for Broadview, but I've worked in the senior living space I need to update my slides because it's almost 20 years now, I think.
Wow.
And I've worked a significant piece of that really with evolving university-based communities. And like Brad mentioned, my first experience was not one that was immersed actually on a campus, but one that had a relationship with a college kind of across town. And we saw those kind of collateral relationships begin to develop. And I really began to experience what I thought was truly like a renaissance of excitement about retirement living, because I saw what could happen when you brought these two constituencies of, those burgeoning, emerging professionals in the form of 18 to 22-year-old students, and really accomplished and successful people in their own right from whatever field they were in. And when you brought them together, boy, that synergy was magic. And so that's when I started looking, really kind of taking my career really almost exclusively towards university-based retirement living. And when the opportunity came to join this community in the Northeast, boy, I jumped. So that's what we're here to talk about today, just a little brief bit on Broadview. And we are thrilled to let folks know, perhaps for the first time, or maybe you've already heard about us, but Broadview at Purchase College is the retirement community that's going to be built right on the campus inside. If you know Westchester County, if you know Purchase College, that's a beautiful 500-acre campus smack dab in the middle of Westchester County. Some beautiful real estate there. And Broadview is actually 40 acres inside the 500 acres. So it's going to have its own nice footprint. And what we're seeing here right now is a slide that really kind of represents that. I'm going to try to advance this here. Having just a tiny bit of technical difficulty. So hold on just a second. We're going to try from the beginning again and see if I have a little better luck here. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Elizabeth warned me that we should practice. I said, no, I do it all the time. We'll be fine.
It's okay. We're professionals 1 minute and totally messed up the next.
Exactly. I've only done this a couple hundred times, so not to worry. Super quick little snippet video of what the community will look like. And I say will look like because the community is not yet built. We're actually breaking ground this summer. So excited to be able to say those words. We've been working on this project, believe it or not, for more than a decade. And in earnest, we've been taking deposits for just over 2 years. And we're at the threshold right now. We need to get to 70% reserved, and we're over 65%. We think we'll be there by the end of June. In fact, we know we'll be there by the end of June. So what is the community going to look like itself? Well, we're going to take just a very quick look at several slides, but I want to tell you, why do I think Broadview, of all the things that Brad talked to you about that are important, about really even choosing if a community is right for you. And then the next step is what community and where. And I'm here to tell you today that I think it's worth giving university-based retirement communities at least a second look. And then specifically, since you're on this call, you must be in the tri-state area. And so it's probably, we're the only university-based retirement community in the tri-state. And why do I think that university-based living, especially Broadview, is so great? Well, exactly what Brad said, and then even kind of an extra exclamation point. Communities in general tend to pull together like-minded individuals, people that are interested in having a plan, people that want to really frame up and platform their retirement in a way that is right for them. University-based retirement communities, boy, they really call out to a like-minded group, because just like Brad mentioned, they call out to those people who put high on the checklist. Lots of things on that list, but high on the checklist is the experience. Of course, safety and security, of course, great healthcare, of course, financially sound. But high on that list is, what am I going to experience every day? What's that culture going to be like? Well, in the case of Broadview, that's going to be people that put intergenerational experiences, a commitment to lifelong learning, really want to be intellectually stimulated. They like the idea of an academic setting and cultural competency that they can be part of every single day by walking out their back door. You talk about walkability. I mean, the Performing Arts Center, the Newburgh Museum, not to mention all of the classrooms, literally as close as for the 40 acres of Broadview, as across the campus, the 40 acres that represent the residential housing for students. Know that you would have the opportunity to take classes or not, perhaps go to performances or not. Whatever it is that you have an interest in doing, you determine the level of engagement. Broadview, of course, offers an extra special opportunity, and why someone from Ohio moved here for this job. Beautiful, idyllic, natural setting, and less than 30 miles from New York City. So in my mind, and I know that that guy down there in North Carolina may not agree, but I arguably would say, the best city in the world. So pretty fantastic location. Now is a great time to be considering and looking. And I tell everyone, everyone, my friends, my family, it's always a good time to begin planning your future. But right now is a particularly good time for Broadview. And why do I say that? Well, I just mentioned we're going to break ground this summer. That means we're going to be opening up and people are going to be moving in probably around 20 months from now. And while that may seem like a long time, this is often a pretty big move for people. And it's possible that you've lived in your residence maybe 5, 10, 15. It's not uncommon for us to deal with people that have lived in their homes for 30, even 40 years. It takes a little bit of time to unwind that, to determine what that next move is going to look like and what you're taking with you and what's going somewhere else. So 20 months is a nice amount of time. I call that the perfect runway. Also, it's a great time because the deposits you would put on a residence at Broadview are fully refundable. You can change your mind at any time and get that deposit back, and we'll even pay you the interest that you've earned on it. Just to talk very, very briefly about what makes Broadview different in terms of even other university-based retirement communities. And I feel like you have to hear the history really quickly to understand the future of Broadview. The history is really an interesting story that about a decade ago, the chancellor of the SUNY systems reached out to the then university presidents and said, we'd like for you to look at what resource do you have on your campus that you could think outside the box and create some new experience that could help the campus financially, but also advance its mission to a broader, wider number of people. The then president of Purchase College, Tom Schwartz, talked to his board of directors, and they almost immediately came up with the idea of a learning community for older adults. It wasn't even residential at first. And it was this idea of, we really knock it out of the park on the 18 to 22-year-olds. How do we reach an entire another segment of the population that is maybe a little older? And they could bring that kind of professional capital, that kind of incredible wisdom and experience. And then those constituents could get together and create a better experience for everyone involved. Well, obviously, over time that evolved. And now 10 years later, because it took a little bit of time because it's on state land to get through the state legislature. So the Enabling Act happened so this could actually come to fruition. During that time, Tom Schwartz took a sabbatical and he traveled to every university-based retirement community he could find across the country. And he found what's working well and what are things that we could do differently to actually even enhance the experience for both the residents of the community, of the retirement community, and the students that were on campus. And one of the things that he came up with, and I think it's brilliant, is that there needed to be physical space, actual dedicated physical platform where the residents and the students could engage. Not, as so often happens, just plug in the older adults to existing physical spaces on campus. Of course, residents of Broadview will have access to the library and to the Performing Arts Center and to take classes in the typical structures on campus. But what if we created a new space that was just for those intergenerational experiences, both organic and kind of non-structured, and those highly structured and scheduled ones? This is going to become what's known as the Learning Commons, one of the first of its kind in the country. The Learning Commons will be that space where students and residents can gather together for that specific purpose. It will be home to a culinary space for culinary classes, or even just grabbing a bite to eat. What they call convertible classrooms for all different types of learning. A lens studio for filmmaking and photography. Game rooms where you can interact just, maybe not in an academic setting, but in a more informal social setting. A movement studio to take classes in dance and the moving arts. So really and truly, truly a space designed to heighten the experience. Just want to talk really briefly about, I've talked a little bit about Broadview, just Purchase College. It's chock full of amenities that's perfect for the students that are there, but fantastic for people of any age. I already mentioned the Newberger Museum, a world-class museum of contemporary, modern, and African art. The Performing Arts Center, where in non-COVID times, they see over 200,000 participants and guests come a year to watch the performances. Not only the library on Purchase campus, but the entire SUNY system library you would have access to. Performance spaces, and not just the Performing Arts Center, but because it is a conservatory of the dance and the performance arts, as well as the fine arts, there are performance spaces all over the campus. And of course, college sporting events. So if all of those other cultural events aren't your cup of tea, maybe you'd like to go check out a volleyball match or a swim meet or a lacrosse match. Really, truly an opportunity for anyone, depending on what they're interested in. And kind of, I'll say it, one of the foundational pieces here that's kind of woven into the connectivity between Purchase College and what Broadview will bring. We're depending on the fact that students will want to volunteer at Broadview, and that Broadview residents will want to volunteer with mentoring and perhaps in the child care center, but ways that will enrich them and also enrich the campus. I know I'm getting close on time, so I'm just going to go through these last slides fairly quickly. This is just a really kind of a bird's eye view of the entire campus of Purchase College. The upper left-hand corner of your screen, you can see, is where Broadview will actually be located. And I didn't even know Brad was going to say this, but I loved it when he talked about that buffer zone. You can see it's kind of its own little campus, but still adjacent to the main campus. So best of both, your own special world, but with, easy accessibility by foot to the entire rest of the academic setting. And then clear on the other side of the campus are most of the residence halls where most of the loud activity will happen. Drilling down just to show you, we are a full continuum of care here. We will have 220 independent residences split between villas and apartments, a full clubhouse with all of the amenities inclusive of dining and a swimming pool and recreational spaces, a fitness center. Just kind of going through some photos really quickly here, but just to show you the caliber and really, dare I say, almost luxurious setting that the community is going to offer. Full concierge service. Just a wonderful, wonderful backdrop to call your next home. Finally, I think I have one more slide I want to show you that's a great picture of one of the dining spaces. There'll be 5 dining venues. It really will be the opportunity to really write the script for the retirement that you want. How engaged, or how, whether you dive in with, feet first, jump in the deep end, or whether you decide to dip your toe in the baby pool, you'll have the opportunity to really experience this university-based retirement on your terms. So I guess I would just invite people that are on the call today, if what you've heard here is interesting, if this is something which you'd like to know greater detail, we would love the opportunity to talk with you. So feel free to reach out to Broadview. I know everyone gets a copy of this. And that's here. This will be a recorded webinar, so you'll have the opportunity to review, and certainly the opportunity to reach out to Broadview and let us continue the conversation, because we'd love to have you help us get to 70%, so we can break ground. And the last thing that I'll just close with, and then we'll turn it over to questions, is that some people ask about, 20 months on one hand seems like not so long to downsize. And on the other hand, what do you do for 20 months between now and when the community is open? And you can see kind of behind me the artist's rendition of what the apartments will look like. And I'll just share with you that of the 100 and almost 50 households that have already said yes to Broadview, those are considered charter members. And those charter members are unbelievably actively engaged with us. All through the pandemic, we met with them virtually a couple times a week. We have a coffee every Friday that's virtual for now, but in June is going live. We have opportunities with engagement from Purchase College, from lecture series on the humanities or literature, or perhaps a film series. They have a book club that's led by a faculty member once a month. We have, it is incredible to me, the friendships that are already being formed. We like to say we're building community before the community's even built. And we'd love for you to come join us and check it out and see what it's going to be all all about, because I truly believe this is going to be the new high watermark for what university-based retirement living can be. And people all across the country, like they have forever, are going to be saying, what's going on in New York City? Let's check it out. And so that's really what Broadview is going to be. So I hope you've liked what you've heard. And if you have questions, we'd love to answer them.
We do. That was fantastic, Ashley. I mean, whenever I see pictures, I just absolutely gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So Steve wanted to know, do you have to always take courses to stay in the community? He said, in the early part of my retirement, I probably would prefer to travel. So how does it work with the courses? Are they required? Is it as you wish?
Yeah, it's completely optional for the residents. I will share with you a question we often get is, well, how do you get the students to get involved? That was another thing that Tom Schwartz saw, was maybe having some things that just organically bubble up, right? Somebody who wants to be a physician is maybe studying pre-med, finds out that there's and we happen to have one retiring dean of a local medical college will be one of the Broadview residents, and maybe they just strike up a conversation and that leads to good things. But Tom Schwartz also saw that maybe it would be necessary to have a curricular change for the students of Purchase College, where a requisite of graduation would be some component of intergenerational learning. And that's what really led to the Learning Commons. So 6-week mini courses that are required for students and optional for residents. And so to answer your question, I think it was Steve, it's absolutely optional, but we also know that, and I know from my experience with university-based communities, people tend to pick and choose what they want to do. Some semesters they may take loads and loads of classes. They may go a few months and not take anything and then pick up again. So I say go travel, enjoy what you want to do. And when you come back, who knows, maybe you'll lead one of those seminars on one of the places you've been to.
Love it. That's great. Thank you. Christine wanted to know, are UBRCs year-round or just summer?
Oh no, 100% year-round. You move in and this is your home. I mean, this is your actual residence. So they're year-round. You move in and you get to live there 365. And Brad, you may know the answer to this. Do you know? I don't mean to put you on the spot. What's the average length of time someone generally lives in a retirement community?
Average, depending on the type of community, but the type that Broadview would fall under is probably, I'd say on average, 10 to 12 years.
Yeah. So not just summer, 10 to 12 years.
Plan it for sure. Terrific. Yeah. So let's see. So we have lots of questions here. So someone wanted to know, what about transportation to New York City? Yeah. So that's one of the benefits, is being so darn close. So of course we want to get you there. So we assume that most people will come to the community with their cars. And so of course parking is included. The apartments all have underground parking and the villas all have 2-car attached garages. But then we will have all kinds of transportation services. We'll have jitneys to and from the train stations in both White Plains and Port Chester. We'll have a bus that will take folks around campus. We'll have bus service that will take people a couple times a week for errand running in Port Chester and White Plains, grocery store, post office, dry cleaning. Those services will also probably be door to door as well. Transportation would also then be available. Personal transport, those things that I just mentioned will be included in the monthly fee. You would also then have the opportunity to just have personal transportation, where you would call the concierge and she would set up a personal driver for you to take you to the city door to door. Maybe the whole community, the cultural arts director has gotten tickets and you're going to go see a show. In that case, included in your monthly fee would be the transportation from the community straight to the theater and then back again. You would pay for the tickets. Very nice. Thank you. So Steve wants to know, my daughter is in college and will stay at home with us for 3 months out of the year. Can non-seniors stay?
Yeah, so that's a tricky question. I think that was Steve again. And so here's what we would say about that. The quick answer is no. The contract is for 2 people and 2 people only. I mean, it's pretty specific about that in the residency agreement. What I will tell you is that We certainly have had, in my experience, I've been an executive director of communities as well. And there are cases that make good sense when we can say that we know it's time limited, that someone could come and stay in the community. And I can't imagine that if we had some parameters around when your daughter, I think you said, would be there, that we could make that work. What we don't want to have, and unfortunately, this is sometimes the case, and really the 2-person rule is for your protection. Occasionally we have circumstances where older adults move to the community, things are great, and then all of a sudden they have a friend or a family member that's fallen on some hard times, and I'm just going to come stay with you for a minute or two, and then the next thing you know, we have trouble getting them to. So there's, that's why the residency agreements are written that way. But I certainly, in my time as being an executive director, have found circumstances where you can work around that if we know that it is in fact time limited.
Terrific, thank you. Denise wanted to know, do the residents own their home or do they rent them?
So this is a crazy thing. Neither. And I'm sure, Brad, you've probably said this a million times. Senior living is a universe into and of itself. It's like nothing else out there. So you've never heard of this unless you've had a loved one that's gone to a senior living community. It looks, in our particular, the financial structure of our community, we're called an entry fee community. So you have an entry fee that looks and feels like a mortgage because it's a big number, but you don't ever have ownership of the property. But what you are guaranteed in the residency agreement, which is the contract that we're under, all of the things that we are beholden to you, is that 90% of whatever you paid as an entry fee, and just for Broadview's case, those start at $250,000 and they go up to $2 million. So I mean, a wide range. We always say we have 14 floor plans and what seems like a million different price points for everyone's pocketbook and design taste. 90% of that entry fee returns to you when you leave the community.
Okay, terrific. We did have some questions about that also, about the floor plans. Are floor plans available to view and pick out?
Yeah. On the website. And I'll tell you, they're under, if you go to the website and then go up to the upper of broadviewseniorliving.org and you go to the upper right-hand corner and select menu, and then you select independent. We made it so hard, I'm not sure why, but then you go to independent living and you scroll all the way to the bottom of independent living, you will find the floor plans, and they're even interactive. You can drag and place furniture and it tells you the dimensions. So you really get a sense of what would my house look like in this apartment or
Lorna wanted to know, are the courses at full tuition cost?
Oh, heavens no. Well, I should say a little asterisk there. Anyone over the age of 65 in the state of New York, and if you're a charter member, you can be from anywhere and you can do them virtually. The classes are $50 a semester per class. So if you wanted to take art history for the semester, $50. You wanted to take, for some crazy reason, calculus, $50. Say sculpture, there probably is a pretty hefty supply fee with that too, but it would be $50 for the class and whatever the supply fee. But note that you're not earning credit when you're auditing those classes, but that also means you don't have to turn in the papers or do the test or take the tests. Now, remember what seems like a long time ago, but only a few minutes ago when I was talking about the learning commons, those little 6-week sprint classes that will be mandatory for students, some portion of them, and optional for Broadview residents, those will be free because those are happening on the Broadview campus. They'll be taught by faculty members of Purchase College, but those will be at no cost to the Broadview member.
Wonderful, so many options.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, maybe Brad, this is a question for you. How many UBRCs are there in the US and where are they mostly located?
I believe the number, and I don't know the exact number. I believe it's in the 8 to 10 range right now. There's not hundreds of them as somebody might think, and part of that's because there's just not always the land, may not always be available, and wherever that wherever that university is, and what that looks like. So there's probably, I would say, 8 to 10 of them that are in existence, and there's probably a couple more that are being developed. Broadview, one of them. There's probably a couple others that are being developed, but they're all, I know there are some on the West Coast, and obviously there are some on the Northeast. So And I know there's one or two in Florida. So I would say they're all over the country.
Well, we're very lucky that we have one right here in the New York metro area, because they aren't everywhere, as you said. Ashley, can you just say the website again?
Sure. It's broadviewseniorliving.org.
And I just also put that in the chat. And also everyone will get an email tomorrow with that as well. Lynn Marie wanted to know, did you say move-in is 2022?
I did. So the community, when we break ground, it'll take about 18-month build out, 18 to 20 months. But they'll start everything at the same time. So they'll start the 44 villas, they'll start the 176 the 2 apartment buildings, they'll start everything at the same time. The village, even though they're 2,000 square feet apiece, they're patio homes, they will be finished first, because each individual residence, though it's the largest of our floor plans, it's a smaller building than the 4-story apartment buildings. So they'll probably be ready October, November of 2022, and the apartment buildings will be ready first quarter of 2023, so probably January, February. And the clubhouse and the health center and all of those things will come online right about the same time that the apartment building is finished up.
Fantastic. So if somebody wants to know what, what would be the price ranges and how to go through all of that, who should they reach out to? And what would be their next step? I guess, they're interested, they think it sounds great, they want to get more into the details.
Yep. So a lot of layers to this onion, and it's best to talk one-on-one at that point. So definitely just hop on that website, and you can send an email straight from the website that says, I have interest, please call me, or please email me, or please snail mail me, whatever information you'd like to share with us. That's how we'll reach back out to you. Or I'm happy to tell you that, you're welcome to just call straight away if you would like. And the phone number I'll give to when we get the email tomorrow from Elizabeth, but it's 914-417. I'm just thinking I only know my number. I don't know the number. Isn't that embarrassing? I don't think I have it. 4201 from the Peanut Gallery, 4201. So 914-417-4201. Thank you so much. I think that was Tina.
Perfect. So I've just put that in the chat. We have your website and the phone number, and it just sounds incredible. I know Purchase is a spectacularly beautiful part of Westchester, and what a special community. So I encourage, if anyone is interested, I'm seeing so many people interested, do go to the website and reach out and find more about what could be your home for the next 10 to 15 years. That's wonderful. And I want to thank you so much, Ashley and Brad. Thank you so much for this information and teaching us about this university-based senior living, and specifically about Broadview. And I want to thank all of our attendees for joining us for some of your afternoon. As Ashley mentioned, this is recorded, and we will be sending you a link. You'll also be able to find it on the Schneps Media YouTube channel there, but we'll send it right to your email box tomorrow, along with the website and phone number, as well as Brad's website as well. We'll be able to share that with you too, so you can get more of his wonderful resources. So thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks so much.
And
Sure,
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our attendees. Please stay safe and stay healthy. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.